Imagine for a second that you own a business that puts on those incredible drone light shows. You've seen them, right? Hundreds of lit-up quadcopters making, I don't know, a dragon in the sky or a giant logo. It feels futuristic. You feel like you've made it. But then you sit down with your partner, you look at the market, and you decide, actually, this is amateur hour.
Which just sounds completely counterintuitive. I mean, you have a product that literally gets applause. Why would you walk away from that?
That is the exact question we're starting with today. We're looking at a high-stakes strategy meeting from today, Wednesday, February 4th, 2026. And this isn't, some polished press release. This is a raw look inside a room with two entrepreneurs, Benjamin Luger and John Domingo.
And they're in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Near the stadium. And apparently a new In-N-Out, which feels important.
Nothing fuels a multi-million-dollar pivot like animal-style fries.
Oh, apparently not.
But the setting was casual. The conversation was, it was incredibly aggressive. They're arguing that what looked cutting edge 6 months ago, the drone show, is already basically obsolete.
And we have the transcripts and summaries from this meeting. What jumps out is just the scale of their ambition. They're trying to solve this huge fragmented problem that goes from, Shenzhen all the way to Vegas.
So our mission for this deep dive is to unpack that shift. They're moving from specialized drone shows to this huge dual concept model, the robotics village and the robotics marketplace.
It is massive. And we're going to get into their whole Disneyland versus Amazon approach, which is sort of their shorthand for it. But we also have to talk about the human element, which, it takes a bit of a darker turn in these notes.
Oh, that was a part that really stuck with me. They have this very intense plan to use the fear of AI to motivate a student workforce.
The very 2026 look at labor.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get to that. And the crowdfunding. But let's start with the business problem. Why kill the drone shows? Benjamin and John are sitting there and they land on this idea that the shows are just a line item. What does that even mean? If someone's paying you, isn't that good?
It's revenue, but they're arguing it isn't scalable revenue. John Domingo makes this great point in the transcripts. He says drone shows generate eyeballs. They get attention, but they're basically just a marketing hook. He calls it pleasant entertainment.
And pleasant is corporate speak for non-essential. When budgets get tight, pleasant is the first thing that goes. They saw the industry moving toward real robotics. Security, kitchens, logistics. And if you're just the light show guy, you're in the kiddie pool.
Right. They realized the drone show is just the flashy sign outside the store, but they forgot to build the actual store. So let's break down the store they want to build. They talk about these two things, the village and the marketplace, which, I'll be honest, they sound like buzzwords until you dig in. How do they actually define them?
That's where that Disneyland versus Amazon analogy really helps. The robotics village is the experience. It's an in-person, date-specific event. Think of it like a theme park for automation.
Okay, so you go there, you touch the tech, you see the robots.
Exactly. That's the Disneyland part. It's an event. You buy a ticket, you see cool stuff.
Yeah.
But you can't scale Disneyland forever. That's where the robotics marketplace comes in. Yeah. This is the Amazon side.
The 24/7 online store.
The 24/7 store where the actual commerce happens. The strategy is that the village, the event, drives the hype. You see the robot work, you trust it. But the marketplace is where they capture the revenue all year long.
So you go to the village, you see a robotic kitchen assistant, and then, 3 months later, you go to their marketplace and you buy it.
That's the loop. And it solves a huge problem in robotics right now, which is trust. People don't buy a $30,000 robot off a random website. They need to see it first.
The village is the show, the marketplace is the sell.
You got it.
And there was a specific reason for this, right? The notes mention John's recent trip to CES.
Yes, and this is so critical.
Yeah.
Because what he saw at CES was, a huge disconnect. He saw this total isolation between the vendors. You had U.S. companies and Chinese companies in the same building, but they were not connected at all.
Like a language barrier or something else.
Deeper, a commercial barrier. He mentioned seeing identical drones, literally the same hardware selling for totally different prices at different booths. There was zero transparency. He called it cutthroat.
It sounds like a bazaar where nobody knows the real price of anything.
Exactly. And that chaos is the opportunity. The robotics village is designed to fix that isolation. Instead of these little booths competing for a few days a year, they want to create a cooperative environment, a literal village where vendors work together all the time.
So if I'm a manufacturer in China with great tech, but no U.S. sales team, the village is basically my showroom.
Correct. And Benjamin and John are the gatekeepers.
Nah.
They believe that by bridging that gap, They can own the whole ecosystem.
Mm.
They don't want to build the robots. They want to build the town where the robots live.
And the money here is potentially staggering. They drop a stat in the meeting. Something like 90% of companies are planning to invest heavily in AI and robotics.
That is the wave they are trying to surf. Benjamin says the real money isn't in buying the tech. It's in being the marketplace that services everyone who's buying. It's the classic sell shovels in a gold rush play.
Okay, so the vision is huge, the Disneyland of robots. But then the transcripts just take this sharp turn into the reality of running a startup. They've got this massive plan, but they can't get 6 students to send a follow-up email.
It is such a harsh reality check. This is the human element part, and it's probably the most relatable thing in the whole document. They've got 6 students, and tasks just are not getting done.
And their solution is I don't know, it's modern, but it's also a little dystopian. They decide to gamify it.
Structurally, it's a smart move. They split the 6 students into 2 teams of 3. Benjamin gets a team, John gets a team, and suddenly it's not just do your work, it's be the other guys.
And to track it all, John brings up using a platform called ClickUp.
Right. He basically says logging into ClickUp is the new clocking in. It creates that digital paper trail. If it's not in ClickUp, it didn't happen. But the motivation strategy, that goes way deeper than just software. And this is where it gets provocative.
Yeah, let's talk about the fuel. They're not paying these students a salary yet. So John asks the question, if it's not money, what motivates them?
And the answer they land on is fear. Specifically, the fear of AI.
When I read that, I had to stop. It just sounds so manipulative. Come work for us or the robots will take your job.
It's a raw psychological tactic, for sure.
Oh.
But look at it from their perspective in 2026. They argue that students are scared. They see AI doing their homework, writing code. They're terrified their degrees will be worthless.
So the pitch to the students isn't, this is a fun internship. It's, this is survival training.
That's it. Learn to control the robots or get replaced by them. They want to position the work as an educational necessity. They believe that fear is a more potent motivator than cash, at least right now.
But does that actually work? I mean, does panic produce good work, or does it just produce burnout?
That's the huge risk they're taking. They are betting that self-preservation will drive these students to learn faster than a paycheck ever could.
Okay, so they have the business model, they have the unorthodox workforce strategy, now capital. They're going to Indiegogo.
Right, and they're very clear about what they're not doing. They want nothing to do with that online course model. They think those pay $50 to learn AI courses are basically scams.
Well, I think we're all a bit sick of those. So how are they pitching this?
As a movement, they want to raise money for physical things like infrastructure, web domains, maybe a new fleet of drones. Benjamin makes a good point that it's easier to ask for money for a specific robot than for just a vague idea.
And they talked about using domain names to create FOMO, fear of missing out. They mentioned roboticsvillage.ai.
That .ai is key. They think AI and robotics in the URL creates an excitement that drones just doesn't have anymore. Drones are old news. But there's a deeper educational gap they're trying to fill here.
Is this the car without air conditioning analogy? Because I highlighted that, and it felt like they were taking a real shot at big tech.
Oh, they absolutely were.
Yeah.
This is a brilliant insight from John. He compares buying an enterprise AI platform to buying a luxury car. You pay, let's say, $50,000 for the car, but then you realize the air conditioning isn't included.
Okay, so I bought the car, but to get cool air, I have to pay extra.
It's worse. You have to pay every single time you turn it on. He's talking about API costs and tokens.
Right. For anyone listening who isn't a developer, what's the air conditioning in this scenario?
The AC is the AI actually doing something. The car is just the software license. But every time you ask the AI to do a task, generate an image, whatever, that costs computing power, those are tokens. And the big companies sell you the license, but they don't tell you, oh, by the way, to actually use this, it's going to cost you 10 cents every time you hit enter.
That would add up so fast. It turns a fixed cost into a totally unpredictable variable cost.
Incredibly fast. And John sees this huge opportunity to educate their backers on these hidden complexities. The crowdfunding isn't just for a product. It's for an education on how this ecosystem really works.
So the village becomes the place where you actually learn how the engine works, not just how to turn the key.
Yes, and that's what makes them different from the scammers.
Yeah.
They're offering practical, structural knowledge about API keys and configuration and all the hidden costs. They want to show people the plumbing.
Let's talk about what's actually going in this village. They list some really specific verticals.
Yeah, they're not just going for generic robots. They're targeting niches. They mention fully robotic kitchens and festivals.
Festivals, like a music festival.
Exactly. Imagine a huge music festival, but the food service is totally automated. No lines, no mistakes, perfect consistency. That's a massive labor saver.
And they also brought up a security division.
The spy in the sky. Using drones for construction management, community security. It's a surveillance play, really. Monitoring flow, keeping things safe. It fits that whole village idea of a self-contained, automated ecosystem.
One thing that seemed to genuinely surprise them was the domain name situation. You'd think by 2026, all the good URLs would be gone.
It was a real shock to them in the meeting. Benjamin found that domains like roboticsroad.com, robovillage.com, they were all available or cheap.
What does that tell them? Is no one else thinking this way?
It signals a lack of foresight from the big players. John sees it as proof that the industry is still in its infancy when it comes to the ecosystem idea. You know, the big companies are so focused on building the best robot dog, they haven't thought about building the town square for the dog to walk in.
So the land is still cheap.
The land is still cheap.
Okay, we have to talk about the meta execution. This is the part that kind of made my brain hurt in a good way. They're using AI to manage their AI business.
It's like Inception-level strategy, isn't it?
Yeah.
They recorded this very meeting with an AI note-taker, and their plan is to feed those notes straight into ChatGPT.
To do what? Just get a summary?
No, to roast them. They want to ask the AI for a brutally honest critique of their own business plan. They don't want a yes man. They want the AI to find all the holes.
That's brilliant. That saves you, what, 10 grand on a consultant?
Easily. And they're also using another tool, Notebook LM.
We've been seeing that one a lot. How are they using it?
This is fascinating because it circles right back to the student problem. They plan to use Notebook LM to turn their meeting transcripts into audio content. Basically, little private podcasts for their team.
Wait, so instead of sending a boring email that the students will ignore, they're sending them a podcast of the meeting.
Exactly. They are betting the students will be way more likely to listen to a dynamic audio summary than read a wall of text. It's meeting the workforce where they are.
It's also a subtle flex. It's showing the students, look, we're actually using the tools we're telling you to learn.
It is leading by example. It solves their communication problem and reinforces their brand all at once.
So let's pull all this together. We've got the pivot from drones to this village concept. We have this gamified, fear-fueled workforce and a crowdfunding campaign built on education. It feels like they're trying to solve a bunch of different puzzles at once.
If you pull back, this deep dive is really a story about bridging gaps. You've got the supply chain gap that John saw at CES. You've got a knowledge gap, the hidden API costs. And you have a workforce gap, the students who are unprepared and scared.
And Benjamin and John are trying to be the bridge for all of it.
Precisely. The robotics village is the bridge for the products, and their management strategy is the bridge for the people. They're moving from specialized drone shows, which is just entertainment, to specialized events, which they see as the entire ecosystem for the future of automation.
It's a huge gamble, and it leaves us with a really provocative thought to chew on. We talked about their strategy of using the fear of AI to motivate their team. They are literally banking on the idea that students will work for experience just to avoid becoming obsolete.
Which raises a really fundamental question about the era we're all stepping into now.
Right. Is fear the most effective fuel for innovation? Or is the fact that entrepreneurs feel they have to use fear, is that a sign of just how disruptive this technology has really become?
It's a question every leader and probably every student is going to have to answer very, very soon.
On that note, that's a wrap on this deep dive into the robotics village strategy of 2026. Thanks for listening.